My goal for this morning is to get the oil pan installed on the Case DC. So first of all, I have to get the oil pan cleaned out. It's been sitting here pretty much since last winter. Then I need to clean all the mating surfaces where the gaskets lay. I'll do that off camera because that's all boring stuff. Then I'll bring you back when we're ready to install it on the tractor. All right, fast forward about 2 hours. I've got the oil pan cleaned. And we've got new gaskets for the top of the oil pan on both sides. Right here. But the kit didn't come with any gaskets for the rear or the front, like these mating surfaces here and right there. The online suppliers don't appear to sell those, so I'm not even sure those gaskets are necessary. But just to be safe, I'm going to put some Formagasket sealant on both of those surfaces. For now, I'm going to leave the oil pump pickup off. It's just sitting right there on the floor. I don't want to, bang into it while I'm trying to get the oil pan installed. And it will fit through the inspection holes on either side, so we'll go ahead and install that after the pan itself is installed. I'm going to start with these big alignment pins in the rear. They go in these big holes right here. There's one on each side. And then up front, we'll get a bolt on each side up here as well. And at that point, we'll be able to remove the jack and put all the rest of the bolts in. Essentially, we've got the two gaskets on top of the pan. And it's time to lift it into place. Okay, good. We got those two alignment pins in. Let's see if I can get two up front here, then we can drop the jack. All right, about an hour later, and I have all the bolts in, and they're all snug. You can see I have my lift set up here. I had some straps around the front of it, and all I did here was lift the front end, not even all the way off the ground, but just enough to take pressure off of the front end. And by taking pressure off the front bolster, it gives you just a little bit of a gap to slide the oil pan up into place. And then when I got a few of those bolts into place on the pan, I could remove the lift and let it back down. So that worked pretty well. It just took a long time to get all the bolts in. The first two alignment pins, those big ones, they were not a problem. But a couple of these ones up front didn't want to line up at first until I got some more of the other ones in. So it took some monkeying around with to get everything to line up. All right, let's get this oil pump pickup installed. All right, inspection covers can go on. I made myself some new gaskets out of cork. All right, let's go do the other side. Done. Next, I'm going to get the head installed finally. So let's go ahead and get the head gasket prepared, and then we'll get that on and lower the head down and torque it up. All right, the head gasket is just about ready to go. Before I do that, I'm going to put some Marvel down each cylinder, around the walls where the rings are, Torque values are 75 foot-pounds. So we're going to start out with 40. All right, now we're going to bump it up to 60. All right, one final time to 75. Okay, the head is on and all the nuts torqued successfully to 75 foot-pounds. And that gasket in there, you don't have to put that on at the same time you put the head on. I completely got the head torqued. And this whole radiator assembly has just a little bit of wiggle room to it, so you're able to pull it back a little bit, slip the gasket with the sealant on it in the crack, and let it go back and put the bolts in. Another product I've had 100% success with is this high heat copper Permatex, and I use it for applications like this. The push rods go down in these holes right there. Make sure your push rods are straight, and of course make sure they are clean. I'm going to put some assembly lube on them just for good measure. All the push rods are now in. I've also got the rocker arm assembly installed and cinched down to the head. And I've got 3 of the cylinders, valves adjusted. We're going to do the last one now, which is number 2. The manual says to set all the valves the same. Intake and exhaust are the same on this tractor at 18 thousandths. All right, I've got a top dead center on number 2. I'm going to loosen the nuts. That feels pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and lock it down. All right, one more to go. So I'm going to rotate the engine one more time to get back to TDC on number 1. And I'm going to check them all one more time just to make sure I didn't make a mistake. And then we'll put the valve cover on. And might as well attach the spark plug wires. Why not, huh? 1, 3, 4, and 2. All right, there we go. 1, 3, 4, 2. Finally, time for the valve cover. That means we're really making progress. The valve cover gasket looks like it wasn't cut quite right. I guess it's good enough, but you kind of have to manipulate it to get it to sit where it's supposed to sit. And of course I got the interior of the valve cover nice and clean. cut myself some cork donuts to act as washers and sealers for the retaining nuts. Washers on top of that. And then the nuts. The only thing that's a little bit off here, this here on the side of the valve cover is a crankcase breather. There's a thick mesh screen inside there. It's probably about, I don't know, it's hard to say, maybe that thick. So I took it off and put it in the parts cleaner and got a lot of the gunk out of that. So that's nice and clear again. I also cut a new gasket for it. However, it looks like something is a little bit off here on top. You can see there's a gap there and it doesn't mate properly with the valve cover. So it doesn't look to me like this part is bent, like the flange looks pretty straight here, but I wonder if this part of the valve cover got bent at one point. You know, this is just a crankcase breather, so it's not a big deal. We're just gonna get occasional mist of oil out the tube, but I don't want a gap right here for oil to possibly escape this way and leak out the top. I think I'm gonna put a little bit of plastic weld right in there. Well, what's that old saying? It ain't perfect, but it's good enough for who it's for. So the thing that's gonna hang us up on this video is we don't have all the gasket parts we need for the manifold. I've got new flat gaskets. They of course fit on there like that. But on the inside of these gaskets are these little split ring inner gasket deals. They fit inside the bore of the block, kind of like that. It's not pressed in all the way, but you get the idea. So when it's all the way pushed into the head, you know, about half of it or so sticks out. And then you put the flat washer on top of that, and then you put the manifold on after that. These things really do a good job in sealing these gaskets. Without these inner ring gaskets, or ferrules if you prefer, it would be difficult to get these flat gaskets to seal correctly. I'm definitely not going to skip this part. The problem is I've got both of the intakes. This is the intake, and then the other center one is the intake. I've got both of these. I can reuse the old ones here. But if you remember from one of the earlier videos when I removed the exhaust manifold, there was a surface rust on the mating surface right here, and that indicated that we were not getting a good seal in there, and that was on all of the exhaust ports. And long story short, the exhaust ports have these little ferrules also, but two of them basically were completely disintegrated, and the other two were partially disintegrated and not doing their job anymore. So I really wanted to keep moving forward on the project, and I thought, well, maybe I can make something like this, but man, that'd be a lot of work to get the right outer diameter and get it to fit perfectly. So luckily I found a place online where these were available to purchase. So I went ahead and ordered 4 of these. There's 4 exhaust ports. Once those come in the mail, we can get the exhaust and the intake manifold on, and then we can of course put the carburetor on and the intake system and the exhaust stack. So unfortunately that's going to delay me another week or so, but I think in that next video we'll have all the parts to complete the final assembly, and with a little bit of luck we'll get this thing running again. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you on the next video. Take care.